I think I'm going to miss our town when I go to university in London.
Oh, I won't. I think where we live is really boring. I'm looking forward to moving to a big city where there's loads more to do.
Yes, but it won't be as friendly as where we live.
I know, but the compensation is it's much nearer the coast and the transport is better to other places.
That's not so important to me. But I guess, anyway, our town won't stay the same with all the new buildings going up.
It'll make it more dynamic than it is now. More people will come here for work.
Yes, everyone says it's best for the development of the town, but I'm not sure. It will make a difference to the atmosphere. I know everywhere changes, but it will be funny to come back here and see what happens. The new residents won't know what we've lost.
Well, I feel really positive about it. If I were you, I'd throw myself into university and not worry about it.
I think we have to recognise that air travel is with us to stay and look at ways of how we manage the climate problems it causes.
I'm not sure I agree. The vast majority of people fly when they don't have to. There's a kind of obsession with seeing the world. I recognise that many governments have taken the airlines in hand and have had to put limits on their activity because the industry won't do it for itself. But we need to go further. If we couldn't fly somewhere, then we wouldn't.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean. Are you saying airlines should offer fewer flights?
Yes, but also actually not even go to some places, especially the shorter haul internal flights.
On one level, I agree with you. We do need to go further in how we tackle reducing flying generally, but we also need to think about how many jobs would be affected, because remember, there is the cargo transport industry as well. It's huge.
Well, that's easy. We can all buy local produce as we had done for centuries until recently.
Yes, I agree, that is an option. But we can't turn back the clock, you know?
As a surfer, you spend a long time on beaches. And because we are always chasing the best waves, we sometimes end up in some unusual places. Or we see amazing things on the ocean floor. One of the most amazing places I've ever been to is Glass Beach in California. It's got an extraordinary history. The beach is surrounded by high cliffs and it's near a place called Fort Bragg. Up to the 1960s, the local community used to chuck anything they didn't want onto the beach. I mean, this included really big things like cars and old washing machines, as well as thousands of glass bottles, old pottery, broken windows and mirrors. It was happening at a time when we didn't appreciate nature so much, and certainly not the beaches. Because the beach was at the bottom of the cliffs, people couldn't see the rubbish, so it seems they just didn't think about it. I guess they just assumed that the sea would wash it all away. Anyway, eventually, the local town council stopped people doing this. But, meanwhile, the sea had been swishing around all these objects, and the force of huge walls of water breaking on the shore had ended up turning the different types of glass into jewel-like pebbles. Now you can see these smooth glass pieces all in different colours mixed in with the usual pebbles. This makes incredible patterns on the sea floor, so that when I was out on the ocean, I felt as if I was surfing in a jewellery shop. However, nowadays, there are not as many glass pebbles as there used to be, because people have been poaching the stones, unable to resist the amazing colour. So ironically, the reverse is currently the case, and rather than it being illegal to leave things on the beach, it's against the law to remove any of the glass pebbles. Despite this, over the years, people have taken many away, so the beach is not as glassy as it used to be. If you go to the beach and like the stones, you should buy them from the souvenir shop so the beach is not destroyed further. Don't you think it's amazing that nature has taken something so ugly and turned it into something so beautiful?
Thank you both, Ellen and Alex, for talking to us today.
Hello.
Hello.
Now, we're looking at the summer holiday and how it came into being in the UK. Ellen, Can you tell us a bit about how ordinary working people first came to take summer holidays?
Yes. Right up until the middle of the 20th century, workers were not entitled to holidays at all. It's surprising to think the change was so recent, isn't it? Working all year, day in, day out, without a break except perhaps on Sundays. And not just that, but not even having the money to go away even if they did have a few days off. No, holidays were very much only for the rich. Then, in 1938, the Holidays with Pay Act was introduced, and workers could not only have time off, but also with pay, which was critical.
So, Alex, did we see a lot of social change after that moment?
Not so much, no. There had been a 25-year campaign for holidays with pay by the trade unions, who found the idea that workers didn't get holidays unjust and intolerable, as they were driving the engine of the country's prosperity. And, of course, there was huge resistance from the factory owners and employers generally. So there was great delight when this act was passed. But just because workers had pay and time off didn't necessarily mean they could go away. Sometimes the money was only enough to carry on living at home, so quite often the opportunity for a holiday was not taken up.
So, how did the summer holiday come about then, Ellen?
Well, eventually resorts opened up round the coast and things like summer camps and package holidays were introduced, which meant the cost of a holiday was very cheap. These camps became hugely popular, and so the summer holiday became a fixed event in the calendar, and the companies running the resorts made lots of money.
Indeed, the holiday business became a huge industry in itself. In fact, originally the resorts were overwhelmed with bookings. But it's interesting to note that countries have very different approaches to paid holidays, and some feel the UK is now in a position where people have too many holiday days. It will be interesting to see how this develops as the labour market becomes increasingly global, but we certainly can't be sure that the holidays will be paid in the future.
My first job was really scary. There was so much to take on. New people, a huge warehouse, and everything was managed online. It meant we had to be trained by someone senior over several months, and I thought they would kick me out afterwards as I couldn't cope with the computer systems quickly enough. But in the end, it all worked out because the guy I had to report to was great, which I wasn't expecting, and always praised me even when I messed up. And I found I could get through quite a lot of tasks in a day once I understood the system.
I think everyone is worried when they start their first job, and of course they can get rid of you in the first 3 months, so you have to work hard. The company I worked for developed its own software, and I'm not very good at digital and thought I would mess something serious up. But it was okay, and then of course you settle down. It's a very competitive sales environment, which usually makes for a very unfriendly atmosphere, so I was taken aback to find that that wasn't the case. Maybe because we had to do a lot of trips together, so there was a chance to get to know people.
My first job was in a huge factory. It was almost like a city. My parents were so pleased I got the job because they had worked there in the past, and I was confident I would do well. At first, I panicked a bit because I kept forgetting everyone's name and job title, but in the end, I put photos up on my office wall. One thing I wasn't anticipating was the variety of different places I went to as part of my job. But we had a very successful year, so all my colleagues were very happy with me. Young people are often under pressure to fit in socially, to do well at school and to plan for the future. So it's especially impressive when we hear about teenagers who have found time to make a real effort to do good for others, maybe even overcoming difficulties of their own along the way. Though most of them act entirely altruistically and without looking for praise, it's gratifying when their contributions are recognised. Today, we meet 4 young heroes, all of whom have been given public recognition for their work. 17-year-old Nandani Agarwal seems like an ordinary teenager from New Delhi, India. She's a good student who also enjoys painting and competing in the shot put in her free time. But when she was 14, her grandfather needed a kidney transplant, and her mother became a live donor. While some countries have no shortage of organ donors, in India, religious and cultural taboos mean this practice is not so common. Inspired by her mother's selflessness, Nandani and her family came up with an initiative called Recycle Life MNK, which uses social and digital media to raise awareness of the importance of joining a donor register. She has given talks at her school and organised events at businesses and other organisations. Additionally, she has written articles and has successfully reached out to celebrities, public figures and influencers who have agreed to support the campaign as a result. Nandani's trailblazing work to increase public acceptance of organ donation led to her being selected as one of the 2020 recipients of the Diana Award, which are given annually in memory of Diana, Princess of Wales, to inspirational young people from the UK and abroad. 18-year-old Umar Mukhtar from Faisalabad in Pakistan was another winner of the Diana Award. His work has focused on trying to end inequalities by empowering people through education, helping them towards success by increasing levels of literacy. Now a teacher himself, he also wanted to encourage students to reflect and question, not just depend on rote learning. Umar's earliest initiative was the Kitab Foundation. The Urdu word kitab means book. Umar set about helping underfunded and poorly resourced schools all over Pakistan by providing tens of thousands of books. Following this, he went on to establish the Sadakat Foundation, which has raised $30,000 to build schools in areas where young people couldn't access quality education. The foundation now manages 2 schools, organises the planting of trees, and also supported hospitals during the global pandemic through the provision of medical equipment. Despite encountering some scepticism when he started out, Umar is now considered an inspirational pioneer in his community. Even as a young child, Grace Callwood of Harford County, Maryland, was very aware that other people faced a lot more hardship. At the age of 3, she asked her birthday party guests to donate gifts to paediatric patients rather than give presents to her. In 2011, when Grace was just 7 years old, she was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a type of blood cancer. This led to sessions of grueling chemotherapy, but thankfully, within a few years, she had made a full recovery. Within months of diagnosis, Grace started the We Can Serve movement, which supports children in need in both the US and Africa. The organisation started by providing toys and treats for children in hospital and filling breakfast bags for the homeless, but have since raised thousands of dollars and also received financial awards for its work, which have been put to good use. Her foundation supports hospitals, emergency and homeless shelters, and children in foster care, and has helped over 25,000 children. Now aged 17, Grace has received numerous awards for her humanitarian work, including the CNN Young Wonders Award and World of Children Global Honours. Young Bristol is a charity based in Bristol, England, that works to offer a range of opportunities and experiences for local young people. Its mission is to help young people become successful, responsible, resilient, healthy and confident. It runs community youth clubs and works to support young people in the Bristol area. It also presents annual Young Hero Awards to recognise and celebrate young people who make a special contribution. Rob Tarrant first came into contact with Young Bristol at the age of 9 when he attended a summer holiday club. As a result of learning difficulties, he was having some problems at school. 3 years later, he started attending Young Bristol Kayak Club and soon became very proficient at the sport. Within a year, he was helping instructors deliver training sessions and started volunteering to help after school and during the holidays. Subsequently, he became a mentor to other young people starting out in kayaking, as well as learning other outdoor sports like climbing and archery. Now 18, Rob has qualified as a kayak rescuer and is completing his training as an instructor. His own learning experiences make him an especially effective role model for children with some type of difference, and his hard work meant that he won the Young Bristol Action Hero Award in 2020.
Good morning, Year 12. As you know, we're thinking of introducing a peer mentoring scheme here at Hillvale next academic year. To help us all find out more about what's involved, I've invited Miss Anna Newman, head teacher at Grange Street High School, to come and tell us about their experience with the scheme. Miss Newman, thank you so much for sparing the time to be with us today.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm also delighted to hear that you're thinking about starting a peer mentoring scheme. Now, first of all, to be clear, there are different ways in which you can run this type of scheme. Some schools have form mentors who go in and work with a whole class. Others have mentors specifically to support other students doing homework. But at Grange Street, our focus is on helping new Year 7 students integrate into life at the school. And we do this by matching new pupils with older, more experienced students just like you, who can act as role models. Students have regular meetings during break or at lunchtime and can also be in touch informally outside these times. In terms of the mentor's role and how things work, at its heart, mentors are acting on behalf of the school by providing support to new pupils. Students like you are uniquely equipped to do this. You have been in the school for several years and know how everything works. During that time, you have gained in knowledge and confidence. Moreover, you are likely to have experienced the same issues, whether it concerns nervousness at being in a new school, or dealing with workload, or more personal issues. Though the initial focus is on helping new students settle in at the school, mentoring can often cover a far wider range of issues. And of course, you have the advantage of being young. This means you can give support from a young person's perspective. But at the same time, it's important to know the boundaries of this relationship, to know what you are and what you are not, and what you can and can't do. But don't worry, there are very clear guidelines to both parties on what the mentor and mentee roles are about. It's important to be aware that not everybody is suited to becoming a mentor. At Grange Street, our mentors have to apply for the scheme and undergo a strict selection process, including a personal interview. We then take care to make sure there's a good match between the mentors and the mentees. For example, putting together sporty people or students with an interest in music. And we provide training for mentors on things like how to provide support and communication skills. Since we introduced the scheme 5 years ago, we've seen real benefits in many different areas. For Year 7 students, we've witnessed them experiencing a smoother start to life at the school. The transition from primary to secondary school can be really stressful, suddenly becoming the youngest person in a very big community, and it can feel quite bewildering. But we've noticed that peer mentoring helps them integrate into the school community far more quickly than pupils used to in the past. Having someone approachable who is a point of contact for them when they have questions makes them feel a lot more secure. It has also improved connections among students of different age groups, as their mentor will often introduce them to other pupils. But, of course, having heard about the advantages to Year 7 students, you may be wondering, what's in it for you? Well, I'm well aware that in Year 13 you'll already have a lot on your plate, with final exams to concentrate on, applications for university or jobs and so on. Some of you may be thinking that looking out for new students is the last thing you need. However, we have seen very clear benefits to final year students as well. As you come to the end of your school days, it's important to take on responsibilities and to see your position in the wider community. Peer mentoring is a very good step towards doing that. You've been part of the cycle of school life for the past 6 years. Maybe it's time to give back. Being a mentor will also enable you to develop and practice your listening and communication skills. And of course, being able to show a commitment to service is something that will definitely enhance your CV or university application. And these anecdotal benefits that I've noticed at Grange Street are backed up by scientific evidence. In 2017, the National Mentoring Resource Centre in the United States published research that demonstrated that both parties, mentor and mentee, benefit from peer mentoring schemes. In terms of the mentees, in our case the Year 7 students, the most important benefits seem to be in terms of attitudes towards the school, better relationships with adults and peers, and increased self-esteem. Meanwhile, mentors in Year 13 show an increase in motivation and develop a range of interpersonal skills. And beyond the benefits to individuals, at Grange Street, we've also observed an improvement in grades and achievement in comparison with the years before we launched the scheme, and a notable reduction in problematic behaviour. It really is a win-win situation.
Thank you, Miss Newman. Now our guest has kindly agreed to answer any questions you have. OK.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the debate. My name is Anna Gonzalez, and with my colleague James Manning, I make up the affirmative team. On the affirmative team, we believe that leaders are born, not made. Before we proceed, I will define what we mean by being a leader. A leader is a person who brings together a number of key qualities which help them to motivate and guide the work of others, getting the most from the team they lead in order to achieve the goals of the organisation. Studies have shown that the majority of leaders share certain key characteristics and possess similar skills. These skills include things like energy and drive, and an ability to inspire others and get the best from them. Natural leaders also have the strength to do things which are challenging or difficult, including making decisions which may be unpopular with some people in the short term, but will ensure success in the long term. But more important than all of this is one other quality: passion. This is the desire to succeed and the conviction that will encourage others to join you in making it happen. These qualities are not mere skills you can learn with an expensive education. We can see a case in point if we look at two great leaders of the 20th and 21st century, Martin Luther King and Jacinda Ardern. Although on the surface they may not have a lot in common, both were charismatic leaders who, despite coming from humble backgrounds, were and are able to energize and drive others. While they may have refined their skills, they certainly didn't learn them from scratch. Both of them had innate qualities that led to their success. Moreover, an academic report by University College London indicates that leadership is at least partly hereditary, and thus we hold that it is a result of nature rather than nurture.
Thank you, Anna. Now, on the opposition team, we take issue with the proposition that leadership skills cannot be learnt. We firmly believe that many people, given the right training and environment, can develop the skills needed to lead others. The speaker on the affirmative team argues that great leaders share certain key qualities, and we do agree with this idea and with many of the qualities listed, but there's nothing to prove that people can't learn these. A pertinent example would be music. Just as some people are born with a natural talent for music, it doesn't mean the rest of us can't also learn to play the piano. But while we accept that some people are born with personality traits that suit them to leadership, we feel it is foolish to assert that this is all they need to create, excite, lead and achieve. In fact, there is a very real danger that people who see themselves as natural-born leaders can be arrogant about their skills and complacent regarding the need to actually study. Research has shown that 1 in 5 managers have no management qualifications. It seems risky, to say the least, to place the future of a company, let alone a nation, in the hands of an unqualified leader. None of us would feel comfortable about having an operation if there was only a 20% chance that the surgeon had been trained for the job. And yet, a lack of training of this kind is one of the results of the idea that leaders are born, not made.
Thank you, opposition team. We accept the speaker's claim that training is also a requisite for effective management, but we feel this should not detract from the idea that some people are naturally more suited to leadership than others. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the debate. My name is Livia Barlow, and with my colleague Channing Ford, I make up the affirmative team. On the affirmative team, we believe that the world would be better off without heroes. Before we proceed, I will define what we mean by a hero. The concept of heroism has changed a lot. In the past, a hero was a person who did something truly brave, perhaps putting themselves at risk to help others, or standing up to somebody more powerful. But recently, it seems you can become a hero without doing anything courageous. A case in point would be football players or stars on reality TV becoming heroes to many people. But what exactly is heroic about kicking a ball or living on an island with other people while being filmed? But even if it were possible to have heroes, why do we need them? The idea of heroes is that of having people to look up to, whose actions the rest of the population should copy, like a role model, but so much more. Surely that's designed to make most of us feel inadequate in some way. Why can't we be satisfied with everyday goodness, normal people doing normal things for the good of others, without the exaggerated excellence of heroes?